April 17. More than half the month of April is over. Tax day was 2 days ago. I bet if you got your return in right away, no one would say anything. But I wouldn't go too much further. Oh my God, look at all these. Look at all these pictures. Oh my God. There's something else with this Gene Hackman thing. Gene Hackman's wife made a chilling Google search. God knows what that could have been. Hello. I'm over here on the side. Remember we're at Denny's? I'm waiting for my coffee. Why do you other guys talk? Yeah, just kidding. This is a Simulcast. This is a Simulcast. Between Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Twitter, not so much. I don't know what happened to Twitter. I'm going to take Twitter off my automatic send. It automatically connects with all three social networks, but Twitter bombed out in the first. I'm sure they're set up on auto pay. Maybe I didn't pay. I don't think so. I think Elon Musk has been spending too much time playing around in Washington and not taking care of business. Get over there to Twitter and find out what's going on. Come on, Elon. Make a phone call. Do something. Ugh. I hate to even talk about that. Best off-the-grid adventures. Oh yeah, I'm gonna book that place, right? You think they got a 72-inch color flat screen TV in there? I don't know. I don't think so. You're lucky if you got hot water in there. Matter of fact, you probably don't have hot water in there. I don't see any, like electric telephone poles floating around. And do you think they have subterranean power? I don't think so. Meaning underground electricity? I don't think so. Yeah. Oh God, now what? Oh, Facebook just took off. I tell you, this internet connection I have is really pipsic. Let's see. I'm going to do an internet test while we're contemplating our navels. Oh boy. Yeah. Let's see what the upload speed is. 200 megabits per second down, which is not too flashy. And the oh gosh, the upload speed is really El Stinko. I need 23 megabits per second up, and I'm at 35. Not good. Yeah. Guess I better get Xfinity out here. For $400 a month, I should have the fastest connection speed in North America. Anyway, we will not be booking this place for our 4th of July celebration. Yeah. Okay. You're at 7,000% tariff. I'll be 8,000% tariff. Yeah. Trump moved his tariff to 245%. Why doesn't he just make it 400? Nice even 400. Which basically will shut down trade from China. The boats will be turning around, and they'll have to figure out where they're going to send all those little trinkets and things that have been ordered from distributors. So their supplies are going to dry up. Walmart inventory is going to dry up. I read somewhere that 85% of everything sold in Walmart is made in China. China makes a lot of stuff. You turn everything upside down, it says made in China. Made in China. And we have 90,000 factories that are empty. 90,000. Ouch. We're talking big buildings, factories. 90,000. That's a 5-digit number. The buildings are there, they're just empty. So someone who owns the buildings are not getting rent. Or if the factory was also owned the building, they got an empty building. Now that could be a 10,000 square foot building, it could be a 100,000 square foot building, and everything in between. You know, they're not all 100,000 square foot buildings. But there's still 90,000 empty buildings. So if we start making things in the United States, we're not going to have to build buildings for a while, because there's lots of buildings that a new up-and-coming, or a not-so-new up-and-coming factory business can move right in. They just have to sweep the floors and put new locks on the doors and wash the windows. Then Elon has shown that another thing to do is to paint the walls white. Give it a fresh coat of paint. Get rid of the cobwebs. Clean everything up. Wash the windows. Clean the ceilings. Polish the floor. You know, you got those big rotary, 30-inch in diameter big pads. Get those things out there and polish those floors, and then sweep them up and vacuum it up. And then paint the floors. And then use epoxy paint. So that, and put some ventilation fans in that warehouse. So you suck out all that epoxy paint. Toluene fumes that is emitted from epoxy paint. Or whatever the solvent is with epoxy paint. Benzene. Toluene. Acetone. It's probably something like that. It's probably not acetone. That evaporates too fast. Probably a little slower evaporating aromatic hydrocarbon, as they call it. Cute, very cute. You can just do the old expando on that one. Yeah. The magic of Apple. Now we can go to the pictures. There we go. Now we're going to do a little edit on this, and we're going to turn. That doesn't do much. We're going to turn the contrast up to high all the way. We turn the black level up all the way. There we go. Nice black and white picture. We get the idea. It is 8:30. It's not 7:30. That's Central Time Zone. Actually, I did a print screen on that an hour ago. Exactly. What time is it? 8:31. Yeah. Justica. Oh boy. You don't want to be in that prison. No, we're not going there. Can we brighten that up at least? Okay, that's good enough. The magic of iPads. This poor little girl is dead. 6-year-old playing out and back. Mama looks out back. 6-year-old daughter's gone. 2 hours later, they find her dead. Well, last night at 11:52 p.m., a moonrise came up over the east, taken with the trusty iPad. Look at that. You can see the craters of the moon. It was the plates as the moon cooled off. Assuming the Big Bang Theory. And you can barely see the faint balconies. Matter of fact, you can't see it. I can see it on the image. So Biden gave a speech somewhere. Not many people are playing the content of that speech in video. Nantwi died March 1st due to massive head trauma while he was in jail for something. 10 prison guards charged with murder. It's hard to believe that 10 people murdered somebody. One person. You can't capture 4 people around somebody. I learned that in my karate training a long time ago. Only 4 people can be swinging at you at once, so just go after the 4. Forget about the crowds behind them. Yeah. Just front, back, left, right. Front, back, left, right. This is Oakland Co. We'll be right back. When Fox Live now. See the city in the background. The industrial area surrounding the waterway. They keep, that's the nice thing when they go on break, and apparently there's no commercials that are being paid for while you're watching Xfinity, on your iPad or iPhone. So the advertisers would not pay for that extra 18 minutes an hour. So, Fox Live, they switch around to all the Earth Cam views. So they're on break from this news broadcast at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And they're on commercial break, and they're cycling around to different. See, it says 8 seconds left. You see in the upper right corner, 0.08. There's 25 seconds left before it goes back on there. 8 seconds to go. 25 seconds to go. Oops. And this is yesterday. I didn't get to some of these stories yesterday because I was running around doing other things. Excuse me. A cyber attack. Some bad guy. Oh, this is a whistleblower. I was thinking about hackers in the basement of Moscow hacking the U.S. computers. So you go, I got another sucker. There's U.S. Department of Homeland Security. That's a big metallic wall plate with some out of focus silhouettes of people. And you can tell it's a thick one because look at the shadow. The shadow nose from a ceiling light aimed at it. Oh yeah. What a difference a president makes. Our border security, convert it into a text message with the audio, with the copies of the screen and the part of the code where you broke loose of the code. And that gets sent to the software engineers. And then one by one, they review everybody that broke loose of the software, when it was doing certain things, like making a right-hand turn. It stopped too abruptly. Or when making a right-hand turn, it didn't stop. And you barely avoided a crash. I don't think so. It's got 8 cameras, at least 7 cameras. New cars have 8. They added 1 in the front. Because they got 2 on each side, that's 4. 1 on the back, that's 5. And they have 2 cameras up front, and they're expanding that to 3 cameras up front. Excuse me while I take a sip of my coffee. Everyone around our coffee table has a chance to sip their coffee every once in a while. Anyway, so they released it up to Scandinavia, and they're going to see how, what kind of reactions they get from the people that are going to use the full self-driving software in the roads and byways of Scandinavia, in Sweden, Belgium, France, and Norway, and surrounding countries. Yeah. Did I see anything about Denmark? No. I spent a week of my life in Denmark in 2012. Not 2011. Not 9/11/01. It was July 12th. It was July 2012. It was, I think, like July 9th for the next 5 or 6 weeks. The European Soccer Association hired me to go with the teams traveling Europe, and ending up in Sweden, I think, was the last. Wait a minute. No, we went from Sweden to London. London, I think, was the last stop. Manchester United and all that. And then I think we got on airplanes and went back across the pond to our gateway cities, flew into Manhattan, into New York City, Kennedy International Airport. And then from there, there was like 200 of us, between 14 coaches, 20 parents, 180 the best soccer athletes, youth athletes, from age 12 on up to age, U19, U18, whatever, down to U12. U meaning under the age of 12, under the age of 13, U14, U15. You had all these different tranches of student athletes, soccer athletes, and they were really good. I took like 10,000 photographs. I culled it down to 9,000 photographs. You had 1,000 pictures of elbows and ankles and things. And I culled them out. And I sent them up on the internet. I'd find an internet cafe in whatever city we were in at night. So I'd go through the pictures the best I could, quickly. And then I had several hundred pictures that I sent up to my server, which was sitting in the the floor in my underneath the kitchen desk. Really. There's a Sony. It was a Sony tower, a mini tower. So it was 14 inches high and 12 inches deep and 5 inches thick. A couple hard drives, whatever. And that was connected to the internet, of course. And that was the beginning of 416-1100.com. And the parents of all these students would then dial in to see the pictures of their darlings. And they'd have to look through them all, and then they could order the pictures, and it was so much fun for everybody. Yeah, it really was good. I mean, this is, remember, it was July 9th. That's when the plane took off of 2012. Whew. 23 years ago. 23 years ago, digital imaging and the internet and looking at digital photos on the internet. That was, if you were a news person, I mean a news producer or a newscaster or a videographer for ABC, NBC, CBS, Associated Press, Reuters. They knew about the digital imaging floating around on the internet. But your basic house husband or housewife, not so much. 23 years ago. It was a little on the unique side. As a matter of fact, the software that we put together was, kind of like hand done by some people that I hired for dirt cheap. They did it in their spare time and helped me out. And that's they called it like a SQL server. I think Microsoft called it. It was a Microsoft server installation, which means you pay, like $800 for the license, to have the Microsoft commercial Microsoft package. It was a big database of photographs, and the SQL server. I think that's the vernacular that they used at the time, a SQL server. So it would read through all the entries. Each photograph was an entry and it had a serial number attached to it. And you could sort these pictures by whatever kind of categories you created. And then it would go through and find the pictures and the serial number of those pictures and put them in a sequence. SQL server sequence. Yeah, that's how it worked. It was, the parents loved it. It was really unique. The United Soccer people, what's his name? Like Bill Miller or something like that. He loved it. The parents, they paid, these parents paid, like thousands of dollars to send their kid on this European tour for, 6 weeks and traveling all over Europe, and the room and the board and the transportation and the flight over and the flight back, and, all the supervision that was necessary to keep these kids under control, which, at times was a challenge, as they say. And then it was Jimmy Photo. They nicknamed me Kodak. Not Kojak, Kodak. like in the film, but it was digital. So it was kind of a little bit of a, ladies, I'm not Kodak film. I'm Kodak Digital. Call me Canon Digital. Nah, you're Kodak. So they scream across the field, hey, Kodak, get over here and get these pictures. So they ran me around like a top for 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever it was. Whew. So thereafter, I said, hey, you know what? Next time we go, I said, Marilyn, you go too. And you can be the tour guide on the bus. You know, the lady standing up front with the microphone telling, because, you know, there'd be hours when the students were practicing and the parents periodically during the day. Because it was an 18-hour day for these students too. You know, with multiple practices and getting ready for the matches in various countries. So, one of the things that the European Tour, United Soccer Academy, United Soccer Association would do for the parents, and there were like 30 parents on the trip, you know, watching after their little darlings and watching after the other ones too. So each parent would watch over a certain number of these kids, you know, from the sidelines or in the evenings, or, you know, whenever they weren't on field, you know, supervising multiple tables of these athletes while they're having breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So the parents got a break, you know, so when the students, athletes were practicing, you know, at 1:30 in the afternoon to 4 in the afternoon, let's say, that 2.5 hour practice session, you know, the organization provided a tour of the city that we're in for the 35 parents that were on the trip. And I said, Marilyn, you can be the microphone lady. You can read from a script, you know, that's probably housed in your iPhone. So you've got the, you know, your arm linked around the vertical bar so you don't topple over as the bus driver is swerving around a corner. And you got a microphone in one hand and you got your cell phone in the other, and you read from the script. And of course you would have studied the script, so you know that you're coming around the corner to you know, where you see a certain castle or something, and you would say, oh, this is the castle of St. Byzantine, you know, in the year 1427, you know, whatever. And they had such a person, because I went on one of those tours just to capture pictures of the parents, you know. I said, Melon, you can do that. And that way you get all expense paid tour of whatever the hell cities we're touring with the European tour. And, you know, next year or year after, we'll go up there together. Go over there together. And it'll be a package deal. You know, the guy that owned the organization, he thought it was a great idea. And after we got back, and he got all the inputs from all the parents on how, and the students on how they loved the photographs. It was a big hit. After the practices for the day, they go back into the hotel. You know, the buses would, you know, there's 190, right? So you had 4 or 5 buses that were all, 40 people on a bus. So do the math. And we're like 5 busloads of students, And then you had, coaches and parents. And so you had, I think around 200, plus or minus 10. So when the students, as soon as they get off the bus, they would, like in the lobbies of some of these hotels in Europe, they'd have a row, in the lobby, in the back of the lobby, or the side of the lobby. They'd have a countertop, with bar stools, so to speak, with backs. Not in the bar, out in the lobby, along one wall. They'd have like 8 or 10 computer stations, so you could send emails to, family and friends around the world, because these hotels would get hotel guests from all over the planet, not just a bunch from the USA. And, or you could look on the internet to see what's going on, tomorrow, making dinner reservations, whatever people would want to do, because they didn't have internet in each room, because it was 23 years ago, before they had an internet in each room. And it was 23 years ago, geez. Did we have iPhones back then? You have to start to... Well, I guess we had iPhones since 1985. Yeah, we had iPhones. I have my brick down here. See if I can do this without making it collapse. There you go. There's my brick. I don't know if you that you can remember the brick. This is the Motorola Dynatac 8500 XL. How about that for a model number? Here's the battery. Slide on, slide off battery. Yeah. Look at that. It's like it's brand new. Jimmy takes care of his stuff. This is 1985 cell phone. There you go. You gotta slide it all the way there. Yeah. That was it. So that little puppy cost about $3,500, $3,750. $4,000 including the car kit. You'd slide it in under your dashboard, and it would connect to those little short antennas that would be in the back end of the middle of the trunk. You'd see those in the old movies. I had one of those. It would plug into that antenna system. It would plug into the 12-volt system in your car battery. Get this off again. Got the battery on it so tight I couldn't get it off. There you go. I'm going to show you this. You see where my finger is pointing? Look at all those shiny contacts. That's connecting to the battery. That's connecting to the antenna. It's connecting to the phone. I guess you have a receiver that's in the car. So you wouldn't hold this up. This thing would slide up, and all those contacts would connect to a receptacle that would take the cell system, and instead of running off of this antenna, it would run off the antenna. That's that little stubby thing on the middle of the trunk of your car. And it would take the energy from your 12-volt battery system. And it would have the earpiece, so when you hold the telephone up to your head, you're talking on a phone, with a coil cord. And you have the microphone and the earpiece. All that is going, connecting all those little contacts. And yeah, it's quite a well-engineered little thing. The Motorola company was very good at creating all this electronics for the military over decades. Motorola was the main company for making communications devices for, the airplanes and submarines and, all the vehicles and portable devices that you would, the infantry would carry, the generals and the commanders, and, all the armed services, Motorola was the go-to place for the Pentagon to buy all that stuff, to have all that stuff engineered and sold, Yep. So that's Motorola StarTAC 8500 XL with a digital screen. Oh, Lordy. My cell bill was, I was in business. I was a developer partner, if you will, from the finance side. I got the financing for the developing company, South Coast in Tampa. So we have a $8 million shopping center at cost going up in Tampa. I'd provide the $7.5 million loan and $500,000 worth of equity. So, yeah. So because of that, and I had to stay connected to the banks and, all that. And Curtis and I both had cell phones, and of course he said, you figure out which ones we should get. So I come up with the Motorola's. And there weren't a lot of choices back then, particularly ones that would plug into your car like that. This was, whenever you see the 1985 movies, you see the government officials, they'd slide this big thing into their coat pockets, their suit coat pocket. That had to be reinforced to carry this 2-pounder. And now we have these little devices that are like 100 times more capable and powerful and clearer reception, probably. The Motorola was really good, I must say, but it was, it was big, and Apple did a marvelous job creating the devices that we carry in our pockets today. Everyone has them, from 10-year-olds on up. I mean, quite frankly, if I had a 10-year-old in school, they would have one of these cell phones, in their back pocket or in their backpack. Now, maybe they wouldn't have it in the classroom, per se, or it was in the classroom, it had to be turned off. A lot of the schools nowadays are saying, no cell phones in class. Must leave it in your locker. Yeah. And then, between classes, the kids would run to their locker and open up their locker and get their cell phone out, and they would text message each other and all that stuff. And then when the bell would ring, 10 minutes between classes, so they'd have like 8 minutes of chatter on their cell phones. Lock them back up in the locker and run back to the next class before the bell rang. That's how it was. I taught high school math for a while, and that's the way it was in Florida schools. That's my coffee of choice. Breakfast blend. Marilyn, she's Bustelo. K-cup. Little doodad that sticks in the top of our Cuisinart coffee maker. Yep. There's our former leader. Sir Bob. He gave a speech and no one knew what the hell he said. You could hear like the beginning and the end of each sentence, but couldn't quite understand the middle. There you go. Department of Homeland Security. I think that's Kristi Noem. And they're cleaning up our southern border. So instead of 8,000 people jumping the border or coming in, they say, well, it's secure. Oh yeah, they're taking the names and the names, all the people coming across the border. They didn't check them out because they had all kinds of scumbags and, a foreign country would empty out its jails and say, hey, head to the southern border of the United States, you'll get in. What you're going to do is stand online and, crawl across the river, and you're in. One day you're not in, and the next day you are. But it's going to cost you $8,000 per person. And if you don't have the money, fine. Here's a serial number. You have a name and a serial number, and you work in the United States, and you send us money every week or every 2 weeks. And if there's anything left over, we'll send it to your parents or whatever family members are left behind. Yeah. So they had a huge annuity. All these millions of people that jumped the border, and they're getting $8,000, $10,000, $20,000 per person, either paid up front in money, which is what the Asians did because they had money, and the people that came up through the countries that weren't so affluent, they would sign up for the payment plan, in which the cartel would receive, instead of $8,000 a person, they get $10,000 a person. And they'd be in servitude, so to speak. Yep. That's what they did. Yep. Coffee. This young lady was not impressed with all the pretty ladies that went up in Blue Origin's almost spaceship. All-female space flight as end time S bang bang T. Well, Jeff Bezos is literally falling over himself to celebrate Blue Origin's all-female spaceflight. There you go, Emily Ratajkowski isn't feeling the festiveness of the equation. Yeah, she wasn't impressed. She thought it was ridiculous. I didn't think it was so ridiculous, but it's one. She's like a generation younger than the ones that went on Blue Origin's space flight. The interesting thing about people that go on TV, these celebrities. Now, unless you're a celebrity actor or actress, the chances are, if you're a celebrity athlete, you're not gonna speak so good in the microphone because you're good at running around playing soccer. You're not good at TV time and speech and eloquence and all that kind of stuff. And the same thing with these actresses, models like this Emily Ratajkowski. The age of big lips, dark eyebrows, and a stare that's looking through the back end of the camera. You ever wonder why these people, how come they can't do a straight part down the middle of their head? Look at this. It's like a jagged road. It's like the yellow brick road. You mean to tell me you can't comb your hair straight forward first and then split the hair left and split the hair right with a comb and then brush it the rest of the way? No, you got this jagged thing. Looks like you just slept on your head. Come on. Anyway, I don't know what particularly when you're on camera, you think you'd comb your hair down and then brush it left and right. Sun up. There you go. Sunrise this morning. It was a beauty. There you go. There's another one. I'm going back in time here. And I'm sure. No, this is Pam Bondi. I'm sorry, I thought that was the. I'm looking at these micro things. Here's Rory winning the Masters last weekend after 11 years of trying to put it. There's the trophy made out of sterling silver. The Masters Tournament, Augusta National Golf Course. And then somewhere around that is some engravings or something with all the winners. Jack Nicklaus holds the record of 6 green jackets. 6. Rory just got his first. Tiger Woods, I think, has 3 or 4, various players. But no one except for Jack has 6. I think maybe Tiger has 5. Someone has 5, I think. And then he was thought to, he'd gain a few more and beat Jack out of all his history-making achievements. But Tiger couldn't stay healthy. He had back problems, surgeries, this and that, got in a car accident or two. It's hard for a professional athlete to stay healthy with all the different ways in which they can hurt themselves. There you go. There's Rory. $21 million purse. And the top guy gets 20% of the entire purse. And Justin Rose, it was a playoff, 2 playoff holes. And finally Rory beat him on the second playoff hole. They played 18, and it was a tie again. Then they played 17-18, I think, or maybe they just did 18 again. Yeah, maybe. Because the second playoff hole, Rory beat out Justin Rose to win the tournament. Sudden death. And then third place, Patrick Reed, who jumped up to third spot because he made a double eagle on one of the par 5s. An eagle is where you hit 2 under par. A double eagle is your 3 under par. So he hit a long drive. And then his second shot went in the cup, which is almost like a hole-in-one. Because it's, 160 yards away, whoosh, drained it. One bounce, and then it bounced in the cup and stayed in the cup. Double eagle. It brought him from like 7th place to 3rd place, pushing Scotty Scheffler to 4th place instead of 3rd place. So it was still $1 million day for Scotty. 4 days, $250,000 a day. That ain't bad. And of course, Rory, he made $1 million a day. Ouch. Right, 4 million, 4 days, 4-day tournament, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then you had a whole bunch of people. Well, 2 people tied for 5th place. So they, so tied for 5th means that's the 5th and 6th place winner. So tied for 5th, they take the 5th place prize and the 6th place prize. They add them together and divide by 2, and the answer to that is $798,000. Yep, that's how they get that. 7th place, Ludwig Aberg, $700,000. So when you're looking, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you miss a putt, you go from $4.2 million to $2.2 million. It's a $2 million putt. Somewhere, it's a $2 million putt. You miss a putt, it's $2 million bucks. And from 2nd to 3rd place, oh my God, it's an $800,000 putt. And then from 3rd to 4th, it's a $400,000 putt. So if you're in the top 5, each one of your putts that you missed, could be $500, $1 million, or $2 million difference in your price. Because after, particularly if there's one player, like many tournaments, Tiger would be, or a player might be, 6 strokes better than the number 2 player. So then you have so we kind of know who's going to be number 1, unless he has a heart attack midfield and can't complete, so that would be a withdrawal. That's not happened, I don't think. So then it's a battle for who gets second and third. So, and you can see here, that's an $800,000 difference between second and third place. Or between second and fourth place. It's $1.2 million. So it's a couple putts, 600,000 a putt. So you got to figure, when you're in the final bunch, you got to, each putt could be, because some of these players are so good that they got the whole field chasing them, but they can count on being in the top 5, let's say. Well, each putt they miss or make could be $1 million swing one way or the other. So they really, you talk about having your knees knocked. If you make a putt, it could be $1 million extra. We're not talking $1 million in total. That's just $1 million more than you would have made if you didn't make the putt. Whew. You go from $4 million to $3 million. Oh, yo. God almighty. You want to make those putts. Now this is sunrise, I believe. Let's see. Lift up on a photo. 6:32 a.m. This is before the sun is up. So it's lit up the sky because, 5 minutes from now, the sun is going to peek up over the horizon. But at this time, it's a little bit before sunrise. It's like 30 minutes before. Because, the sunrise is like 7 a.m., round numbers. This is 6:30. So this is a half hour before. So it's, sun up in in Iceland. Anyway, that's what you're seeing there with the sky is lit up. And I say, Marilyn, we're going to have an outstanding sunrise today. And there it is. Bingo. Oh, that's how it looked. Here the camera is trying to set the exposure based on the bright sun, but this is how it actually looked. And the sun is not quite up yet. What time is this one? 7:56. This is about 4 minutes before. 7:32 a.m. 7:32 a.m. There you go. There's the big trophy. It's called a major. There are 4 majors a year. The Masters, the U.S. Open, the British Open, and there's another one. That still got one named. I don't know if that's the Wanamaker Trophy. Everybody Wanamakers. Okay. Car prices in the U.S. versus Europe. So you can see the Jeep Grand Cherokee. In the United States, it costs $38. You want to buy it in France? It's $64,000. With their 60% tariff or something. And Trump is going to say, guess what, Macron? Your French wine is going up 200%. So that $50 bottle of wine is now $100. according to your entire wine and champagne. Everything you send here, you're charging us 60%, we're going to charge you 60% tariff. That might eat into your wine exports into our country. I guess California wines are going to become more popular since your French wines are going to be priced out of the market. So drop your tariffs, or else you charge us 60, we're going to charge you 60. It's really that simple. Even trading field. And then after they pay that for a while, then Macron will come back to Trump and say, all right, since we're knocking ourselves out with 60% tariffs, why don't we just drop them both down to 0? Yes, why didn't you think of that the first time? Then you would have had a place to send your wine last year. Took a year to figure it out, huh? Okay. And that's basically what's going to happen in most places around the world. Chevy Tahoe. $59,000 in the United States. You want to buy a Chevy Tahoe in Norway? It costs you $100,000. The Tesla in Germany is $50,630 in the United States and $51,000 in Germany. You know why? It's not because the Germans are nice to us, because they're not. It just so happens we have a Tesla factory in Germany, and Germans can buy Tesla cars made in Germany at about the same price as we pay for them here, because we have 2 factories in the United States, and there's a Tesla factory outside of Berlin, Germany. Now, aside from a Tesla, I don't know why they put that up that way, because they should have compared, a Tesla with not a Tesla, they should have compared a BMW, against, a Cadillac. And the tariff is like, 60, 70, 80%. So a Cadillac, $100,000 Cadillac here, costs almost $200,000 in Germany. Now, would you rather have a Cadillac, a $200,000 Cadillac in Germany, or a $100,000 Audi or BMW Series 7 or whatever? So, Trump is trying to clear the boards with regard to tariffs with all kinds of products, not just cars. Here you go, 2024 car imports. 2024. From the U.S. to the Europe. In other words, the Europeans, 169,000 cars. Europeans sent to the United States for access to the marketplaces in the United States, 757,000 cars. More than 4 times. Yeah. 4 times the number of cars came into the country as opposed to going out of the country. That's the graphic I plucked. When did I pluck that? This week, Monday, the 14th. The day before tax day. Wow, what a catch. Looking at a delayed broadcast of Cody Bellinger's diving catch steals a Yankee win. Aside from that catch, baseball is kind of like going out back and watching your grass grow. Yeah, it's pretty slow compared to football or even golf. They have cameramen all over the golf course now, or at least the last 5 holes. So there's always somebody hitting a drive or making a putt or missing a putt or an approach shot or whatever. I mean, they got cameras all over the last 4 or 5 holes on the course. So the production people are, going from the TV crew to TV crew, catching all of what's going on, particularly on Saturday and Sunday, with the players that make the cut. And how do they determine who makes the cut? They take the player with the best score and they count backwards by 10 strokes. So if the best player in the whole field is minus 10 under par, then the cut is at even par. That would be 10 strokes away from 10 strokes under par. That's how they determine. And whatever number of players that is, it could be 54 players, it could be 52 players, 60 players, whatever it is. It's 10 strokes behind the winner. That's what the cut line is after the first 2 days of play. And everybody that's within 10 strokes of the best score on the best 2 day score of the first 2 days of playing, that's where the cut line is. And all those players will play Saturday and Sunday, and the rest of the players can go home. They won't be on the field to play. iPad like a pro. The iPads are getting so good nowadays. I'm jiggling. I have an iPad Pro here. They increased the screen from 12.9 inches to 13 inches. They just rounded up to 13. Good idea, folks. And they did that by narrowing the bezels, which is the black area. Left and right, and up and as a black area all the way around the screen. And it's like, let's say 4 millimeters all the way around. Well, if they narrow the bezel by a millimeter, so now it's 3 millimeters all the way around, that could increase the dimension by 1/10 of an inch, or 2.5, 25 millimeters per inch. So if they can narrow down the diagonal measure of the bezels by 2.5 millimeters, that'll bring it up to a 13-inch screen. And that's exactly what they did. I don't know if it was by accident or on purpose, but the screen, the new iPad Pro, the large one, is a 13-inch diagonal screen. Yep. So you combine all the really fast electronics that's in the iPad, and the beautiful brilliance of the colors that you can see, and the definition and the no pixelation is lots of dots. The more dots, the merrier. You're looking at over 5 million pixels. That's making up this digital image. So there's President Trump and Apple looking at a circuit board. That's not dinner reservations. They're in actually an IBM factory. The company IBM. They're in a factory, and that's a big circuit board that goes in one of the computers that's in front of them. The Treasury Department. There you go. The Treasury Department of the United States government. That is the front door, if you will, which is 3 stories tall. The big glass cube with an apple hanging suspended from the ceiling in the middle of said Apple building. So apparently in the Manhattan store there was panic buying going on because everyone perceived that there was a trade war beginning between China and the U.S. Not to understand that the U.S. is going to give Apple and companies like Apple a special exemption for high technology like iPhones made in China. That would not be subject to the 245% tariff. That would be subject to a 10% tariff. Washington Post is not a friend of Mr. Trump, President Trump. No. So their headlines are always a little caustic. The Trump administration authorizes military use of public land along the southern border. So that way you can have army types guarding the border as well as border security. Since it's hard to hire border security in sufficient quantities to make sure the border is sealed shut, like SEAL Team 7 or SEAL Team 5. Well, he's giving a speech. The border wall is behind him, left up on the picture. And this was captured at 5:27 a.m. on Monday, the day before tax day. Oh, I did 3 tax returns. The boys told me they would be taking care of their own tax returns this year. I did it, what the hell. So sometime, well, as of, this is Masters stuff. There was a time where McElroy and Rose, as of the 13th hole, they were tied. And they ended up being tied 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 5 holes later, they were still tied. Can you imagine? And Scheffler was still 4th. But Reed jumped from 5th to 3rd because he made a double eagle. And then Berg missed a putt and went back behind Scheffler. So 3rd and 5th place switched over those next 5 holes of play. Every once in a while I made a print screen. There we go. Or I took a photograph of my TV screen. There you go. There you can see the flight of the ball. This is Justin Rose hitting a drive on hole number 17. As you see, it says Rose minus 11, 16. That means through and including 16 holes of play. So since he's driving the ball, that must be the 17th fairway. And you can see all the people sitting on each side. My God. And here's a cameraman. He's on his knees on a real low. That's a TV camera, a network camera. Facing the player from the sideline. So looking up at the player. Or zeroing in on the ball while it's sitting on the tee. And then as you see this guy crush his drive. These guys all hit the ball, 300 yards. So McElroy was 13 and Rose was minus 9. So looks like McElroy had another double bogey. And then Rose had a birdie. So that's what brought him into minus 11 each. Everyone thought McElroy was going to be toast. But he wasn't toast. And then Marilyn and I had a conversation that said, for our anniversary on June 13th, let's go to the Boca Hotel for our 44th anniversary. Yeah, 45 years together, 44th anniversary. Because we got to know each other in February of 1980. February 19th, I think, of 1980. Uh-huh. Not a bad looking little granddaughter, huh? Yeah. He's carrying her around. She's hanging around him a lot. She likes to be around old grandpa. So she's on Air Force One, flying, I guess, up to Washington. I think they're getting ready to take off. Or they just took off. And of course he's always avails himself to the media. He was already talking to the media, and then she came up from the back of the plane. She got on the plane from the rear staircase, I believe, or was chatting with friends back there. It's hard to tell. She was probably on the back of the plane talking with her buddies, or in a ladies' room or something. Anyway, she came marching up forward to meet up with Grandpa while he's talking with the media. And of course, she's the first grandchild, you know. I don't know how many grandchildren they have. They got a few, probably. And, yeah. So she comes marching forward. This is the daughter of Donald Jr. And she actually gave a little speech at the Republican National Committee when he was nominated to be run for president. And she gave a little speech about Grandpa and what the American people doesn't know who Donald Trump is. They just know what the media says about him. But let me tell you, I play golf with Grandpa, and he's really a very nice man. That was her speech. It was really quite nice. And she went to him and said, "I'd like to speak at the Republican National." And he said, "Really? What do you want to say?" And I'd like to say that I really like my grandpa, and the American people doesn't know how nice you really are. I'd like to say something. He said, "Fine, you're in." Everybody I've never met President Trump. I knew President Trump from the media back in the day when he was just a guy that built big buildings in Manhattan. And I grew up in, Brooklyn, Queens, not far away from where he did. And then when I was like 9 or 10, we moved to the North Shore of Long Island in near Roslyn Harbor, just southeast of Roslyn Harbor, and like a mile. Went to Roslyn High School and all that, and he continued to grow up in Jamaica, Brooklyn, Queens area. He grew up in a modest 2-story house with a yard all the way around, not that big. You'd be surprised, with all the wealth that they accumulated, or his father did when he was, my age. And then Papa Trump put Donald Trump in business, gave him like a $50 million starting allowance. Really, not a bad way to start off a company. When your father gives you a $50 million check and say, "Here you go, kid, see what you can do with us." But, Trump's father knew that this kid was a sharp one. So he invested in his son. And of course, the son turned $50 million into $5 billion. That's a nice couple of order of magnitudes. So there's no toys in the attic with Donald Trump. He's a sharp cookie, and still is today. There's instead of Maserati, this is Maserati. It's a Maserati. What's the matter with you? We just heard the Passover and everything. the matzo crackers. So, Maserati and matzo cracker, a Maserati. Come on, everyone, you can get that one, right? And the paint job is painted like a matzo cracker. I think that's probably a digital cracker. What do you think? Put onto a Maserati. Nice looking car. That's without the hint of the Maserati. It's just another way of pronouncing the car. It's a Maserati. Yes. Okay. This is the inside of St. Paul's Church, where we all went to Sunday school, or Sunday church services at 11. Marilyn went at 10, I think. She left me home to watch the cats. And our boys, they know what that looks like. The stained glass windows from within. Look at that. Stained glass. All leaded together. They used liquid lead, which was a pliable lead, particularly when it's heated up. And you essentially attach all the glass pieces together with a leading. It's kind of like grout, except it's leaded on both sides, and that holds all the little glass plates together. And then, of course, in between, you have these more stringent barriers which lock tight all the stained glass together so it doesn't come apart. You have to have that lattice work in there or else the whole thing would fall apart. That's why you have those thicker barriers. That's the stained glass window in the setback. And you can see the candles. So if you digitally square that away, Marilyn took this at 9:56 a.m. on Sunday the 13th, as you can see from the EXIF data. There you go. And you can see exactly where the picture was taken, because we can do there you go, there's the map, and that's the St. Paul Church. That's the magic of the EXIF data. And if you want to see what that church looks like, the satellite view, there's the satellite view. And the church is oriented so that the eastern sun shines right into that window right there. Yep, and we lived, where did we live? I'm looking at the map here. They used to ride in the back door of the church. They'd come across here. There it is. I see it right here. This is our house right here with... Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it's this one right here. This right smack in the middle of the screen there. But, yeah. You see the circular driveway with one car in it? That's ours. Or it was. 384 Northwest 9th Terrace. Cul-de-sac street. Goes, look at this. We have the ability to, you see how the trees move when I'm sliding that? Yeah, that's it right there. A lot of trees. There's the cul-de-sac and it comes back. You got 1, 2, 3 houses. Cul-de-sac. You got some multifamily right there. And then you have, where's Palmetto Park Road? Yep, there's where the picture was taken. Sunday morning. There's Palmetto Park Road. Right there in front of us, silly boy. It's always a little tricky looking from above, because when you're riding on the street in the car, not many people fly over the houses, so you have to really kind of pay attention to what's going on here. I see it right. I see the house right there. It's right where I'm putting my finger. And if I just keep doing the expando, oh yeah, no, we gotta go up another bit. I was wondering why I couldn't find the house. Yeah. It's right here. I'm coming into it. I'm zeroing in on it. We're dropping out of the sky. Where's my circular driveway with the one car in it? There it is. Yeah. It's right there. Yeah. That's it. Okay. Going down memory lane here. Anyway, Marilyn took the picture. And we live here now, just about 1,000 feet east, in a high-rise building. That's right here. Right here, right in the middle of your screen. Excuse me, right here in the middle of your screen. Building horror, there you go. Yep. And if I keep that in the middle of the screen and keep reducing the magic of Google, keeping it right smack in the middle. And there you can see where St. Paul's is in relation to the building that we're living in now. It's just that's 8th Street. So it's 8 blocks west. It's about 1,000 feet. Yeah. But you still got to put everything in boxes. And you put the boxes on the truck. Then you take the boxes off the truck. Then you got to unpack the box. And it's still a rat race moving. And then we were in the building and we moved from apartment 801 to 812. And that was just walking down the hallway. And you still got to pull your crap in a box, and you carry the box. We had 1 million boxes, so you carry them all down. And, like 10 boxes of books. Brandon helped us pack the boxes of books. Yep. All right, sports fans, it is now. We started this exercise at 8:15, and now it is 8:12. And if you look up in the clock right here, see, it's 8:12. It's going to be 8:13 in 15 seconds. Bingo right now. 15 seconds. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 8:13. You can set your clock with that. Because the network time is picked up. It has to be accurate within about 50 milliseconds. That's 50 thousandths of a second. Has to be. The FCC controls how accurate that has to be, or else they're in violation of federal law. All right. I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll see you here tomorrow. It's going to be Friday morning. Yep, 8:15 in the morning. Be there or be square.